Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome to another episode of Freshly Grounded. This one is a very, very special episode, subhanAllah. This episode is with Mufti Muhammad ibn Muneer. This was filmed, by the time you guys listen to it, it was filmed about 2 weeks ago. But it's finally out. I know so many people have known about this episode and they're really excited about it. And this intro is going to be probably slightly longer than the normal ones because there's a lot of preface I want to give to it. First of all, if you guys haven't seen Mufti Muhammad ibn Muneer, he's a huge personality in the States and he's become very popular with his Q&A videos. And I think one of the main reasons that he's become so popular is because, first of all, the shaykh has studied in Hadith in Medina, and then he studied in Medina his masters, and now he's currently studying his PhD. So when it comes to knowledge, the shaykh has a lot of it and he's very, very well respected. And subhanAllah, so to get the opportunity to have an episode with him was an honor, and Allah made us work for it, but alhamdulillah, it was very, very much worth it in the end. The story is basically that, so some brothers had found out that the shaykh was coming down to the UK, and so I started getting messages a few weeks ago from people saying, Mufti Muneer is in the UK, Mufti Muneer is in the UK, you have to get him on. And so I had like 3 or 4 different brothers like trying to contact like his team to make it happen, and it proved quite difficult because the shaykh is very, very busy when he's in the UK. But alhamdulillah, one of the brothers managed to speak to his the brother who's doing his scheduling, and we managed to make it happen. The shaykh had about 30 minutes available, 30 to 40 minutes available, and so we jumped on an episode. We went to Brixton and shot this episode in Madinah College. So I just want to say a huge thank you. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to do all my thank yous at the end because there's so many thank yous to give for this particular episode, and I want to make sure I mention a lot of them, and if I don't remember someone, then please do forgive me, but I know that I'm very, very grateful for you guys making this happen, because there's a lot of people to thank. But just to give you more preface of the episode itself, so we sat down with the shaykh, and he does a lot of Q&A videos where he's basically just answering people's questions, and he's also got a lot of videos where he's talking to people about seeking knowledge. And I had a lot of advice from people with this episode. They were saying, speak to the shaykh about how to study knowledge. Other people were saying speak to the shaykh about his journey in studying knowledge and how he got into it. But I found that a lot of these things were already online. And also, it's not the nature of Freshly Grounded. The nature of Freshly Grounded is meant to be just 2 or 3 people having a chat, and very, very, very relaxed and easy and chilled out. And that's, I think, why Freshly Grounded, alhamdulillah, has got the success it has, and it allows people to kind of listen to it on their way to work, on their way to school. And so I wanted to keep it that vibe. So I didn't ask about those things. It did kind of become a bit of a Q&A in the sense that I was just kind of asking questions and getting the shaykh to answer some of the stuff that I had on my mind. You could also tell that this is one of the episodes I'm probably the most nervous for, because like my interview skills kind of went out the window. But I don't know, it's weird because even though I've done interviews with some like huge people, like probably one of the biggest ones is Moeen Ali, but I was like double as nervous for this one, and you can tell when you listen to it. I think it was just because I knew I had such a short amount of time with the shaykh. I also know that it was built up for so long, this episode, and so many people were excited to hear it. And on top of that, there was about 15 people in the room, 20 people. Like the shaykh came with his entire entourage. They were all watching us, and I think that the build up of all of that led to what it was. But inshallah, it's still a beneficial episode, and you guys enjoy it. I now want to do the thank yous. I want to say a huge thank you to some people who want to be mentioned, some people won't want to be mentioned actually. Okay, I want to say a huge thank you to Brother Omar, who was very passionate about making this happen, Omar Kamini, to Sheikh Jamal, to Ustad Yahya, to the brothers Nasir, who helped me on the first day, because this shoot was actually done over, it was kind of meant to happen over a few different days, so different people helped me on different days. Ajmal, Musa, and Nasir, they helped me on the day before. Obviously the Shaykh himself, Mufti Muhammad ibn Muneer, his whole team, the brothers from his team, brother Nafis from his team who gave me his contact details. I want to thank Madinah College, because Madinah College actually allowed us to film in their in their college, in their cafe room, free of charge, and they allowed us to set everything up. And it was at like 10 o'clock at night we shot this in Brixton, and they were just very, very generous with their time. And so I do want to say a huge thank you to Madinah College specifically. And if you guys want to check them out on their website. I believe the best place to check them out is their socials, actually, they were saying. Let's have a look. Madinah. Yeah, at Madinah College, Madinah College. Check them out on Instagram. They do Islamic courses. They also do Arabic courses for both men and women. They have an amazing facility, so do check out Madinah College. Who else was there? There was Nate. A huge thank you to Nate, because Nate took time out of his own day and in his own time to produce the episode. Obviously, an amazing producer. I should have written down everyone, to be honest, because I'm definitely going to forget some people. Brother Nuruddin from Birmingham, who kind of made this happen, who was doing the schedule for the sheikh. Also, a huge thank you to the brothers at Eagle Chauffeurs for making this happen, and for trying to get in contact with the sheikh and you know, putting in a lot of work for this episode. So do check them out. It's on the chauffeur company in London. They pick you guys up from airports, for events, for weddings, in some of the most stunning cars, Range Rovers, Mercedes. Amazing company. Check them out on Instagram at Eagle Chauffeurs. That's EAGLES CHAUFFEURS. Check them out on Instagram, Eagle Chauffeurs. They really did help us out, so I want to give them a big thank you as well. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more people. There's a lot more people. I'm just off the top of my head, I can't remember. But I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who helped make this episode happen. And I'll get into it now. So without any further ado, this is Freshly Grounded, a very, very special episode with Sheikh Mufti Muhammad ibn Muneer.
And welcome to Freshly Grounded, the brand new podcast by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Huh?
I said welcome to Freshly Grounded,
After that bit.
the brand new podcast
And after that bit?
by best friends Faisal and Sam.
Really?
Okay, so alhamdulillah, we are joined by our Sheikh Muhammad ibn Muneer. Jazakallah khair for joining us.
Thank you very much for offering the invitation and for hosting me.
I know that you've had a very, very busy trip here, so I know that's not been easy for you, and you're going back tomorrow?
Yes, inshallah, tomorrow.
And how's your trip been in London so far?
To be honest with you, without sugarcoating it, without lying, without having, we say, fake piety, I think it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Yeah, it's been nothing less than amazing from so many different aspects.
Right.
You know, the brothers, the just being in a new country, you know, seeing Allah's earth, traveling, and, you know, looking upon yourself in your own country, in your own, you know, state of affairs, the classes, the youth, you know, the young Ahl Hadith, inshallah.
Right.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You know, in a hotel room with your companions getting on you getting on your companions, because that's part of the trip too.
Right.
It's not just all, you know, class or lecture, but you bond with your brother, even if you have a fight or argument with your brother.
Mm-hmm.
All families, you know, have disagreements, let alone you get to know your brother. You know, you really know your brother, let alone you meet new brothers, Abu Isa, and you meet new brothers, nice brothers. So it's a beautiful experience. And last but not least, I think the greatest reward that you get in any trip, especially this trip, it's not a gift that they give you. It's no type of compensation or honorarium, but it's somebody coming up to you that you never met before and saying, I watch your videos, you changed my life. I benefited so much from you. You got me to stop doing this. You got me to go overseas. Sheikh, I want you to know you don't know what you do for other people. Somebody that you never ever met before. And just somebody telling you that your humble efforts have affected them positively. That's the greatest gratification. There's no feeling like it.
Is your first time in the UK?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done? Did you get a chance to do any sightseeing?
Yeah, today we went around a little bit. We saw Buckingham Palace.
Okay, me
and the fellas. We got a chance to see a few nice parks. You know, it was nice. Of course, you always want to see, you know, more. You want to go to more spots. We tried to see Big Ben, but Big Ben was
Big Ben's down, I think.
Yeah, he was a little under the weather today.
Yeah.
You know, but it was nice, man. Even driving to the masjids, just seeing the roads, seeing, you know, the scenery. It's always nice. But you know, you go on a dawah trip, you're not expecting to be a tourist.
Right.
You know, you're expecting to, you know, be up late, up in the morning, traveling, ripping and running. You know,
you have to have a lot of sabr for that.
For sure, but you gotta enjoy it.
Right.
If you love it, you know, even though you're human, you get a little annoyed,
Mm-hmm.
you get tired. Like I said, you might get into disagreement, but you still love it
Right.
at the end of the day.
SubhanAllah.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that you were in Birmingham a few days ago, and I saw that you were with Shaykh Abu Osama, who is a very beloved Shaykh of ours. I had the pleasure of being able to travel with him about a year or so ago. And I wanted to actually touch on something that Shaykh Abu Osama does a lot in his classes. He says a lot, and I've noticed that it's something that you've said as well in classes as well, or when you're answering questions. And it's this concept of when there's a scholarly difference of opinion on something, to not be rough and tough with that person, even if it's something that, for example, you yourself disagree with. So an example that the Shaykh has given in one of his classes was if, for example, you are you believe that the meat of this land, for example, you can't eat all of the meat of this land, right? So you can't, for example, go to McDonald's and get yourself a Big Mac. But there's an opinion amongst the scholars where doing that is permissible. There's an opinion, for example. So he said what he said is, if you now go to McDonald's and you see your boy and he's eating a Big Mac, you can't be rough and tough, right? And so I had a question kind of in regards to that, because it's something that kind of I've heard push a lot. And so my question is, what is the best way then to approach someone if you really sincerely believe that it's not the best thing? Let's say if we use that scenario,
Clear.
what is the best way to approach that person? Let's say if it's your friend.
Crystal clear. I would say it's a book. The book is actually in English, all right? And alhamdulillah, the book, you know, it's been translated by the brothers at the Madinah College, here at the Madinah College. And that's the book of Sheikh Nasir al-Shithri, hafidhullah, with regards to fiqh rules and the fiqh principles for someone who is a layman Muslim, someone who isn't mujtahid. All right, may Allah reward the brothers who translated the book and published the book.
I mean,
in the book, I've never read the English translation, but the Arabic, I read it many years ago. He talks about the rulings of making inkar, of criticizing somebody and talking about someone, and you yourself don't know the proof and evidence.
Right.
In other words, you yourself are a muqallid, you're following. And the person that you're criticizing is also a follower. So how can a person who doesn't know why he's doing something tell someone else that they can't do that?
right.
That don't make sense. As far as a student of knowledge who actually knows his opinion, regardless of what his opinion is, you can or cannot have the Big Mac. That's one thing. And even then, he can't be rough and tough and annoy people. Okay, and that's because the scholars of Islam, they say in a statement, they say, La inkara fi masail al-khilaf. If there's clear difference of opinion, that's valid difference of opinion among the people of knowledge, you can't make inkar. So we differ on an issue. Taking a picture, using a video. I say it's haram, you say it's permissible. I can't say you're a bad person or you're off the sunnah or you're not right. No, that's not right. Because within the circle of the people of knowledge, there's different views. Let alone the fact I don't even know why I'm saying what I'm saying.
SubhanAllah.
So that's going to lead to fanaticism.
Right.
And that's going to lead to haste. And oftentimes that's going to lead to me thinking that I'm better than you. And I don't even know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And this is something that the believer has to stay away from. The Prophet tells us about the believer in the grave. And when he's asked the questions and what he'll say. And what the angels will say to him. Okay. And as far as the one who has doubt or a hypocrite, then he's going to say, لا أدري سمعت الناس يقولون شيئا فقلت كما قالوا. He's only going to say, I don't know who's Muhammad or what is the deen. Even though he knows the answers. Look at this now. If he's a munafiq, he knows the answers, but he's not given the tathbeet. He's not made firm. And he's going to say, I don't know. I heard people saying something, and I said like they said. So the scholars, some of them, they say this proves how ugly blind following is. But sometimes it's a necessity. So if you are blindly following or following someone, that's fine. But don't beat somebody up and you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. That just doesn't even make any sense. So I have brothers I travel with, they eat from McDonald's or Popeyes or KFC. I choose not to eat it. I don't believe it's halal, but I can't beat them up. There's scholars that are 10 times better than me who said that you can. Who am I to abuse them? Let alone the fact that, I mean, we have to learn one of the best ways of behaving with your friends is never to be overcritical. On the scholars, they mention this. When you travel somewhere, you shouldn't be overcritical. You see what I'm saying to you? So if you know why you're doing something, give advice. Listen, we know it's a difference of opinion. I don't think it's a good idea for you to get the Big Mac. Let's go get the halal burger. But me carrying a club and knocking you upside your head, how many lumps you want? If you don't listen to me and my interpretation and my strand of Islam and Sunnah, no. That's going to push people away from the deen. And it has. That's what I would humbly say.
Jazakallah khair for that.
Wayakum.
I'm trying my best to keep the theme of Freshly Grounded, which is to be conversational. But having watched so many of your videos in the past, I think anybody would say it's very hard to just not immediately turn it into a Q&A because it's what we're so used to. But you do a lot of Q&As, and and I wanted to ask a bit about that kind of later. I had a question that I suppose is more prominent to the viewers of this podcast and the general kind of people who consume these episodes. And the question is relating to something, the idea of like gang culture, etc. I know that some brothers were kind of saying that there's been issues with family members of people, etc. Now, there's a big issue that happens that's kind of happening around here. And I noticed it the most when I went to university. So when I went away to university, I would often get asked for certain drugs, right? I'll just get asked for certain drugs, and I used to always question my university housemates because I wasn't used to the area where I went uni. I wasn't really that used to the area. So I said, why is it that I out of all of us get asked the most for drugs, basically? Because you're Muslim. Because in this area, it's the Muslims that are the drug dealers. Mm-hmm. And so it's something that's very prominent, as well as gang culture. And for the young Muslims to kind of behave in ways, in my culture there's a lot of young Pakistani kind of brothers who perhaps like to behave in ways where they want it to seem like they've come from a difficult background and
they want to be tough,
right? Or
when they're actually not.
And so I want you to kind of touch up on perhaps some advice for them young brothers. Crystal clear. I get it. I mean, I would say this: there are many people who have studied gangs and gang culture. There are books. People have PhDs in this type of organized crime or criminal behavior. And I'm not an expert on the field, but I know friends who are, and I've read some of their books and watched some of their videos. And they basically, all of them agree on one thing. One of the most important reasons or common reasons people join in a gang or want to be tough, want to be a gangster, want to be whatever, real, whatever you call it, is because they're hurting on the inside and they're missing something. That thing could be love. That thing could be attention. That thing could be respect, or that thing could be acceptance. So the first step is for us never ever to deny the reality. You can't say that there's no love and respect in the gangs in the streets. That's not true. Right. That's not true. You may get instant respect by doing bad stuff in the streets, and people will love you, and there is relationships. But you got to realize that what you see on the television screen, and I feel that movies are just as harmful, if not more harmful, than music. People always blame raps or rap songs and rappers and hip-hop culture, which there is a lot of bad stuff in it, no doubt. But it's deeper than that, because the rappers, what are their names? Scarface, Noriega, Escobar, this one, that. When they're trying to be like real-life people that were portrayed in movies. Right. Corleone, Godfather, so on and so forth. But no one ever says that Marlon Brando is a bad person. And he was the man, no matter how benevolent he was. How many people did he order to be killed? Right. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Clint Eastwood. That's gun culture. Right. That's where the gun slinging culture comes from. And the rappers or singers, they copycat that stuff. You watch cartoons, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny. That's violent, yahi. Yeah. They pull out big guns, blow people up. Right. So whether it's a movie that you're seeing or a rap song, know for sure at the end of the day, those actors are going home to their comfortable, warm beds. And 9 out of 10 rappers that you see on television, 9 out of 10, they're not gangsters. As we say, you don't have a real bone in your body. They've never been through no hardship, that stuff he rap about is just lies. So at the end of the day, they're going home to their comfortable lifestyle. You imitating them, trying to be like them, seeking love, seeking acceptance, seeking respect, seeking status. When that bullet ripped through your body, then what? It reminds me of something. I remember watching it was called a Teenagers Q&A that was happening at Green Lane, and there was teenagers and there was parents there, and somebody asked the teacher, they said, what's one of the biggest things that you fear for the teenagers in the West? And here's me thinking he's going to say something along the lines of, pornography, music, the fitna of kind of like in schools right now, everything that they're teaching. And his answer blew me away. He said, the thing I fear the most for the teenagers is the movies. And he said that there's movies out there, like, for example, Harry Potter, where they glorifying magic. and also horror movies. And he said what he said is that the thing that worries me about the horror movies is that it's almost like building you to become scared of the shaitan. And even if you're the type of person who was to say, I don't get scared of horror movies, you'll notice that after 1, 2, 3 or 4, eventually you'll just hear a sound and you'll look back and you're building this fear for the shaitan. So that really shook me itself. Kind of what you
subconsciously,
right.
yeah. I mean, it's a reality. You know, I just did a khutbah a couple weeks ago about Halloween and about the history of Halloween that most people don't know, that it is a religious holiday. And the point is that I was trying to tell the people one of the worst problems with Halloween, you just mentioned a major point, is the horror culture. It gets you to be afraid of jinn and sihr and magic, and people forget about death and they think that it's a joke in a game. So movies, music, culture, whatever the case may be, the Muslim has an identity. And the Muslim is to stick to that identity. And everything that the human being needs and wants can be found in Islam and can be found in wholesome living. You want love, you want respect, you want acceptance. There's no better place than in the masjid with your brothers and with you meet people from different backgrounds, me and you. How do we come across each other? I don't know you, you don't know me, but something brought us together.
Right.
I have respect, love, etc. So you don't need it in the streets or in the music culture or in the movie culture. You don't need it. You can get all of that in Islam. And better, and most importantly, you don't got to look over your back.
Yeah.
There's no guilt. You sleep good at the end of the night as a Muslim because you don't cheat people. You don't rob people. You're not sleeping with someone's daughter or wife or girlfriend. So I think that people, if they are going to look at gangsters or gangster culture or movies or horror culture, whatever, you got to look at those actors, how many pills they take.
SubhanAllah.
How much makeup is on their faces. How much surgery they get done. How many people they cheated and robbed and stole from, and how they got to keep looking out their rearview mirror. Peace of mind. How much money is spent on psychologists and shrinks every day. Muslims, do you want to live like that? Okay, you got money, you got respect, you got this, but how many people did you oppress to get that?
SubhanAllah.
Okay, how much responsibility and consequence is going to catch up to you?
Right.
So I think you got to look at the reality of life. And last but not least, I think a big part of the problem is the parents and the older brothers. The young guys, they shouldn't be on the street if you did your job the right way. If you took care of them, you give them respect and love and make them feel wanted and appreciated in the masjid. You go to some masjids, they push the youth away. Whether it's the roles, whether it's classes, whether it's political fighting for the power of the masjid, who runs the masjid, you guys are too ambitious, get out of here. And then when something happens, someone's killed, someone gets a tattoo on his neck or his face, he has a girlfriend, has illegitimate children, then they say, oh, we've lost our youth, the whole generation is lost. No, you lost that generation. So it's a responsibility for everybody. And most importantly, is never ever to forget that a Muslim lives a real life. That life on television isn't real.
It's not real life.
No, it's not real life.
Just because I wanted to kind of touch on a few of the things that I feel are prominent kind of with our general audience and kind of with young people of today. Another topic that I thought was kind of really big, and the listeners of the podcast will probably think to themselves, you've discussed this so many times, but I feel like it's such a big issue that I would love to be able to discuss it with you and kind of get your take on it. And it's this issue of, I'm sure the brothers here will agree, there's this huge culture on social media of sharing jokes and memes that are to do with religion, right? And it could be something very small, and it could be something that's completely clearly mocking the religion. Yeah. But we know how dangerous those things can be. And we see Muslim influencers who have thousands and thousands of followers who, you know, themselves might probably even, call to Allah, perhaps, but they find perhaps it harmless to share an image where there's some kind of basis of the joke is Islamic. I'm not sure if you're aware of any of them or if you've seen
For sure.
Right. How dangerous are those things? How dangerous is it to just share something like that to have a laugh, or to make a joke that's to do with the religion to get a bit of laughter?
I would say there's a scholar once, he was discussing the issue of the masjid and the etiquettes of praying in the masjid and congregation. And of course, one of those etiquettes or one of those manners is the phone. The phone is a stable part of life now. You can't do without a phone. So people, they have ringtones, right? Some people's music, sometimes it's birds chirping. Some people have crazy, wacky stuff. Whatever the case may be. Whatever it is, it's annoying in the prayer, right? So this scholar, he said that you can learn a lot about a man through his ringtone. You can know a person by hearing what type of ringtone is on his phone. You can know someone who's intellectual, someone who's simple-minded, someone who's really laugh, happy, go lucky type of person. And the same applies to social media. You go on someone's page, what's on their page? This LOL, this emoji, this simpleton, simple-minded type of foolish thing. What type of person are you? What's funny about making fun of somebody with a beard, or what's funny about that?
Right.
Is not enough humor, permissible humor, to find entertainment in? And what did the Prophet do? Did he smile or did he laugh and crack up? All of us laugh. We're not considering act fake and act like we don't laugh. But me personally, I don't find nothing funny about the deen.
Right.
Because it's dangerous.
Very dangerous.
And one step, two steps, the next you know, you're off the cliff. And that's what that hadith means, in which the Prophet ﷺ says, Inna al-halal bayin, wa inna al-haram bayin. The lawful is clear, plain. The haram is clear and plain. Wa baynahuma umurun mushabbahat. But between the two plain things are things which aren't so plain. The Prophet, he gives golden advice. فَمَنَ اتَّقَى الْمُشَبَّهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَإِرْضِهِ. Those who avoid the gray areas, no one can ever slander his honor. And no one can ever slander his practice of the religion. You're totally safe. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الْمُشَبَّهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ كَالرَّاعِ يَرْعَى حَوْلَ الْحِمَى يُوشِكُ أَنْ يَرْتَعْ فِيهِ. He says, and he who falls into those doubtful matters will surely fall into the haram. And then he makes a tangible example. Listen carefully, because I don't think that this hadith is explained properly too often. What this hadith actually means, especially in modern 2018 times. The Prophet, he says, like a shepherd, yar'a hawla al-hima. He allows his animals to graze around a sanctuary, a patch of land that's off limits. Yushiku and yarta'fi. Oh, yaqa'fi. He says he's about to fall into it. Meaning, let's make an example of this now. All right, so we have the dog culture. UK, America is all the same. Wherever you go, you find non-Muslims, they love dogs. They have dogs that inherit money. A lady, she died, she gave millions of dollars to her dog instead of her family members. Seriously. So you see someone walking down the street with 10 dogs, right? Walking the dogs, letting the dogs use the restroom, right? So the hadith is telling us, if the woman walks with those dogs and there's something dangerous for the dogs, a busy street in which there's buses and trains, but the dogs are far from it, but she allows the dogs to get just a little too loose. They're not there yet. They're not ran over yet. You shickle. All it takes is a cat running by, or a bird, or one dog, and the next thing you know, the dog is across the train tracks. So the smart person walking the dogs is going to take those dogs and stay far away from the curb in the street. So just think about that what this hadith is telling us is that if you play around with stuff, it may not necessarily be haram yet. It may not necessarily be mockery of the religion. I'm just making fun of you as a person. But it's 1-2 steps, and next thing you know, you're actually mocking the beard. Oh, you look funny with that beard. You know, it doesn't suit you. Your mustache looks funny. And the next thing you know, you're mocking the practice of trimming the mustache. And the next thing you know, you're laughing at people who do this and do that. So it's not a joke. And even if it isn't haram now, it's going to lead to it. And once you fall into mocking a religion, I mean, you know, what hope do you have after that? You know, Allah could seal your heart, put a curse on you for making fun of his religion and making fun of the people of his religion. And how can you talk about people who practice something but not talk about the actual practice? It's almost impossible. So you can learn about a lot from someone just from their social media page. If someone is a serious Muslim, if someone is a serious person in life, if you just want to laugh and joke and be simple-minded, I mean, it's going to lead to many consequences in the deen and in the dunya. And I'll say this, is nothing funny, man. If you want to laugh, then read a comic or watch a comedian. But don't laugh and don't trade, you know, emojis or pictures or screenshots about Muslims and stuff. Anything to do with the deen. Because it is that dangerous, and the shaitan is going to cause you to slip. And oftentimes he gets us to slip by practicing things which are disliked, or practicing things which are, like I said about the hadith, are close to the sacred part. The sacred part. What do you want to do when the sheep jumps over that fence? And anyone caught grazing on this land is going to be fined or arrested or maybe even executed. So the wise shepherd doesn't even take his sheep near the fence. That's what the hadith is teaching us. The wise shepherd does not take his sheep near the fence. Because right now it's good. But sheep, they jump, they run, and next thing you know, and then the sheep is running in the sacred grounds. What are you going to do? You can't go over the gate and get it. Now you're in serious trouble. And it's not even funny at the end of the day. So that's the best advice I could give on the situation. And unfortunately, we got to realize that we may be playing checkers, and the people who aren't Muslims, who may hate Islam, they may be playing chess. they're thinking 2 or 3 moves ahead.
Right.
And we're just thinking on, it's just a joke. Come on, bro. What's the big deal, bro? They say, bro, right? Come on, bro. You're too extreme, bro. But they're getting you to laugh at a Muslim, not Islam. But then in 5 years, or another picture, or another video, next thing you know, it's actual mockery of the deen.
Right.
So I think we need to be mindful of that.
Jazakallahu khair. I think one of the things that's I've always noticed that's clear through watching your videos and through following you online is that you don't shy away from speaking the haqq. And one of the things that kind of showed me that was when I remember somebody once asked you a question about gyms and going to the gym if there's music and if there's females there, and you said look, then don't go to the gym. There's many other ways where we can exercise and stay strong without having to go in that kind of environment. And I think that hearing something that's something I haven't heard from a lot of people, not because people don't say that, but just perhaps that question maybe I just heard it be asked to you. And so there's a growing culture of people watching mixed martial arts and boxing and that kind of stuff. And so this is kind of a 2-part question, right? Is it or is it not permissible to watch, for example, mixed martial arts? And the second part question is, if it is not permissible to watch it, then could you say that it's one thing to watch it, right? Like that's, you're committing perhaps one sin. But then let's say, for example, recently we know that a Muslim brother had a lot of success in a fight, and a lot of people were posting online his image and saying like their reactions to the fight to basically show that they watched the fight, right? So could you say that it's one thing to watch it behind closed doors, but then to then post about it online, you're almost showing you're doing a new sin now by showing everybody that you watched it. That's clear. If Sheikh, if it's haram.
Clear.
Right.
With the cup being empty. I get it. I see where you're covering yourself for me not to say empty your cup. I get it. Clear. Jazakallah khair. I get it. I'll tell you this. Once again, what you watch is a reflection of you. All right? Now, I'm from the United States. I'm not from no, holy sanctuary, temple I was born in. We grew up watching sports. We grew up watching cartoons. We grew up watching things. We grew up playing sports. That's the part of the culture. So I'm not going to sit in front of you like some holy saint and throw someone off a cliff for watching sports. But the sports that you watch, how often you watch those sports, and what type and what are you into is a reflection of you as a person and of your Islam. So if you're a strong Muslim, then obviously certain sports you're just not going to watch. And if you do watch them, you're only going to binge. You're not going to sit there for hours and just follow and be a hero worshiper of this athlete. Oh, did you see the fight? Yeah, he beat up McGregor. He called him a tap machine. He gave the Muslims pride. And that's it. It's not going to be a thing which I'm stuck on in MMA 24/7. 24/7 look at men's aura. 24/7 look at men with tight shorts on, pounding each other's face into the canvas. So that's one level. Another level is it depends on what you have done in the past. There's some people I would say watch sports because it keeps them from watching things which are 10 times worse,
right,
that they've been exposed to, or they grew up on and they had to fight hard to get out of. And you have to be mindful of the levels of munkar. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he lived in the times of the Tatars, the Mongols, and the different invasions in the lands of the Muslims. That's a major part of history. So oftentimes when they were at the gates of the Muslims, or they had conquered or whatever, when they would go and they would win, obviously they would get drunk, extremely drunk. They would drink. And some of the Muslims who interacted with them, they wanted them to stop drinking so much alcohol. And they wanted them not to enjoy this khamr like they did and dance and have parties. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah and others, they would say, let them drink. Because if they get drunk, at least they're just harming themselves. But when they're sober, they kill and they rape and they plunder.
SubhanAllah.
And they take the lives of Muslims and they desecrate Allah's sacred things. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he mentions that there were so many books lost in the different wars, whether the Tatars or the Mongols or the Crusades, regardless of the historical contents. Non-Muslims invading Muslim lands. So much so that one time, he says it was a huge, large body of water that was turned blue and black because of the ink of the books that they tossed in the water. It was so much books that were destroyed and disrespected that the water became black. So what's the greater harm now? Them being drunk or them killing Muslims and disrespecting the sacred books? And the same applies to watching sports. There's some brothers I would say, watch sports, no doubt. You need to watch basketball. You need to watch basketball because he used to be watching something which is total debauchery or something which is total degenerate. So it depends. The different types of music, different things people listen to. Some people, man, music was like, like this. It's hard to get out of. So I think that when talking about these issues, we got to be mindful of the reality. And if you're a strong, pious Muslim, you don't need to watch those sports. You don't need to watch UFC or MMA, men with the aura, women, basketball, whatever it may be, like I said about the gym. But if you know that going to the gym keeps you away from a girlfriend, going to the gym keeps you out of the club, then I'm going to say go to the gym. Get on the treadmill and go to the gym. If it keeps you out of the club from drinking and smoking and fornicating and getting, tatted up, as they say, right? Getting the tats everywhere. And that is a reality. But a student of knowledge, someone that's serious, who has self-control, I'm going to say, no, you can't go to the gym. No, you don't need to watch this. This is an odor that is exposed. These women, this fake stuff, this cosmetic stuff. Don't watch none of that evil stuff. So I think it depends on the person.
Okay.
And I think that we must be mindful of the Muslim can only win but so many battles. And you have to prioritize. And last but not least is, I've done some videos before talking about sports and talking about the phenomenon of sports. Many khutbahs I talked about this. Okay, I talked about March Madness, 5 minutes of fight about basketball. We talked about Frozen, the Super Bowl, and all of these different sporting events, right? And the saddest part about us as Muslims, if you ask me, is that we watch these sports and we don't learn nothing from them. We don't get no values from sports, and there are many values that you can get from sports. So if you're going to watch them, which you necessarily shouldn't be, but if you're going to, at least get something out of it. And that is, you can't avoid every single punch in boxing. But you allow the enemy to land the insignificant punches to avoid the what? The serious punches. So a brother who has a problem smoking weed, I tell him smoke cigarettes. No doubt. A brother who has a problem snorting heroin or cocaine, I tell him smoke weed. It's a reality. A brother who has a problem with homosexuality, he may take a girlfriend. Not that it's halal. No. It's not halal. But we're talking about the reality of it. He can't avoid every single blow.
Right.
And if you tell him to avoid every blow, he's going to fall and crumble into pieces, and he may leave Islam. But someone that's strong, that's practicing, I say, la akhi, ittaqillah, you can't smoke weed, you can't have a girlfriend. It's haram. And you know it. You're much better than that. But every Muslim isn't on that level. So we got to be mindful of the people. And the Prophet ﷺ, he never commanded his companions to do something that they couldn't.
Right.
He never told his companions to do something that was beyond their natural abilities. Never. He gave them responsibilities, and he knew the companions of different levels. And this is what we learn from the scholars of Islam. And I don't know if we can tell you, I think that's more than enough right there.
Yeah,
I don't
Jazakallah khair.
open no cans of worms on your channel.
No, you're more than welcome to, Shaykh. You're more than welcome to. Shaykh, I'm conscious that it's very late, and that you blessed us with your time, and you said, we're coming up to a good amount of time. So Jazakallah khair for giving us
Thank you
your
for
time.
the invitation.
I did save one. I did say that this wasn't going to be a Q&A, but I did save one question for myself. It's quite detailed though, and it's quite specific, but I think that people might benefit from it who are listening with the culture of like YouTube and etc. rising. So I'll ask it, knowing that perhaps you might want to answer it off air with more information because it's quite detailed. And it's the issue of Google AdSense.
Okay.
Which is basically, so if you're a YouTuber, so for example, let's say your videos of Hadith Disciples, they go online on YouTube, you can sign up to a platform called Google AdSense, which basically means that Google put adverts onto your YouTube videos. Every time people click on those adverts, you make money, and you can actually make a substantial income from that kind of stuff. Currently, for example, on stuff like this on Freshly Grounded, we don't have that activated. It would make a big difference, but we don't have it activated. Now, the reason being is because you can actually filter the adverts that they play. So you can have adverts that don't show alcohol, don't have gambling, don't have dating stuff. But even if, for example, you were to tick all of those off and just have the safe adverts, even if they show an advert of biscuits, there's going to be music in the background of the advert. Clear. Can you make money? And if someone clicks that, then that money goes into your pocket. I've always wanted to know the answer to that.
Clear. Well, I mean, Jazakallah khairan, like you mentioned, the seriousness and the danger of a question and an answer, or a fatwa, whatever you call it, is dangerous. And like we mentioned earlier, when you say something's halal or haram, you're signing a paper saying that this is Allah's ruling. So obviously, there's a great deal of study that's always needed for every question. Whether it's previous study or study in the future, you sit down and you look into it. And making a ruling on something means that you understand that thing. So that's a very good point that you mentioned about the adsense or any other issue in Islam, is never to be hasty in answering a question, and at the same time never to be over hesitant and spreading the truth and speaking the haqq. So I'll say it like this. I would say in brief, is that a Muslim has to understand the things that Allah has made permissible for us, the non-Muslims do as well. So we have businesses, right? Muslims have hair salons, barbershops, etc. And even though the original thing is permissible along with the non-Muslims do, there's certain levels that we're just not going to get to, even though the original practice is permissible. So to be a YouTuber online and have a successful channel, many brothers do, like yourself. Many people have successful channels. They get millions of followers, thousands, millions of views, and they benefit people. But it's not like someone that's on YouTube doing foolishness or something haram and he gets, I mean, you look at your video. For your video to have 5 million views, you're like, whoa, it's viral. But then you look at this guy, he got hundreds of millions of views. And I don't think that the Muslims should always aspire to meet and match the non-Muslims what they do, because there's certain things that we're restricted to do. And this life, even though it's permissible to enjoy things and to have nice things, it isn't necessarily for us. So we got to be mindful of that. And I think sometimes YouTubers, if myself, whoever, we get carried away with that sometimes. And it ain't but so far that you can go in certain things until you fall into something disliked or haram. So with the AdSense, you know, from one aspect, you're filtering the commercials to the best of your ability. So from one aspect, that's a good thing. And that's something which leads it to, inshallah, to perhaps being permissible. But at the same time, you said it's about biscuits, right? Or sneakers, and it has music or dancing, or even if it's in nudity, it has something which is unbefitting of a Muslim. Mm-hmm. So from one aspect, you've done your job by filtering. And from another aspect, you know that it isn't but so much filtering you can do. And a big part of things are still going to be haram, so you're still held responsible for that. And, you know, if someone's a YouTuber or any other profession, just being an entrepreneur is a virtue for a Muslim. You can pray. You can go to Jummah. You don't have to shave your beard. You don't have to shake these people's hands. You don't have to do these haram acts. And there's always going to be a pinch or a scratch that you have to go through. Okay? People, they ask about working in banks. I've been asked that before. They ask about having hair salons and barbershops. I used to be a barber. I used to cut hair when I was younger. And to become a certified barber, you have to learn how to shave a face. You cannot get a license until you actually shave someone's face. You have to learn how to trim eyebrows. You have to know how to do ladies' hair too to be certified. So if I have an Islamic barbershop, what are the virtues of that? I can pray when I want to. There's no music being played. I don't have to deal with no haram things, credit cards, whatever the case is. There's no naked woman as the shampoo girl. We're not gambling. We're not selling guns or drugs. No pornography in my barbershop. It's a Muslim barbershop. Jummah, the shop is closed. Eid, the shop is closed. People are reading, studying. Women, sisters can come into my barbershop with their young children. But how do I get certified until I do some things which are clearly haram? So sometimes you have to take it a lesser of the two evils. How can a Muslim be a financial expert or an economist? How can the Muslims have their own la riba banks unless they know the system in and out? And you can't learn the system of riba in and out until you've actually been trained inside of the system. So living in Western countries, sometimes we have to realize that there are certain things, not all things, I said, certain things which are a necessity, and certain things which are without a doubt, it's bad, but it's things which are worse. All right, there's monsters, and then there are what? Big monsters. And sometimes you can't always avoid a small monster. So I'm not saying it's halal or haram. I'm just saying these things have to be taken into consideration. And if you say, no, you can't shave someone's face in the barber school, okay, no problem. How can I become a certified barber? I'm going to work in a barbershop and they're non-Muslims, laughing at people, looking at women, selling drugs and smoking weed in a barbershop. The sister comes in the barbershop with her young kids and she hears them talking about women and obscenities. So how can the Muslims open up their own places, let alone insurance? All that stuff you got to do to have your own business, which is clearly disliked or haram, whatever the thing may be. So the point is to establish certain things. Sometimes the Muslims must take the lesser of the two evils. So to have a successful YouTube channel that's thriving and flourishing, as we say, bubbling, people are watching it, it's viral. There are certain things that you're just going to have to go through. And if we choose to say, no, it's haram, this is haram, you can't have your own barbershop, the Muslims can't have the barbershop. We're living in a fantasy world. Right. We're living in a fantasy world, and in 10 or 20 years, the Muslims aren't going to have anything. And we're going to be dependent upon the non-Muslims. And when we're dependent on them, we have to do really haram things. So instead of you shaving someone's beard once to get your certification, to get a job, you're now shaving your beard every morning.
Wow.
You pick your poison.
That's powerful.
You pick your poison. You got to figure it out.
SubhanAllah.
You know, and the more independent we are, the more professional we are, the further we can get away from haram. Bi-idhnillah. And, you know, we just got to be mindful of this. Maybe in 10 years or 5 years, they'll make a service for the Muslims. The Muslims are so into YouTube that they force them to get rid of any commercial that is non-compliant. But it has to be a pioneer and it has to be a martyr. Don't ever forget that. It has to be a pioneer and it has to be a what? A martyr. You think Muslims got these jobs and these businesses from doing everything correct from day one? No. People had to do haram acts. What can you do?
SubhanAllah.
So, you know, that's what I think what needs to be said. And Allah surely knows best.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair for your time. I would also like to thank all the brothers here for being patient with me. I know it's been difficult. I know that Shaykh had a very, very busy schedule. This time, his first time in UK. And you've been very, very, very giving and selfless by giving us your time here. And Akhi Nuruddin for dealing with my messages back and forth. And also the brothers at Medina College for hosting us and letting us use this as a set.
Sure, we thank all of them.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Barakallahu feekum.